All right, good morning. My name is Maggie Traastad, and I am one of the board members on the Coon Community Watershed Council. Our council started back in 2021, and it was just a group of people who got together to try to figure out what to do with some serious flooding problems that we were having in our watershed area. So we are a 501(c). We have been that for almost 2 years now. We have 11 total board members. We right now, as of the end of 2023, had 85 members, which consists of both producers and community members. So we have a very active community member group within our watershed that collaborate with our producers. We have 3 communities in our watershed, actually good-sized communities. So we are located in 3 counties, which makes us kind of unique. We're in Vernon County, Monroe County, and La Crosse County. So just last year, we actually hired an independent contractor to be our farmer coordinator to help us do a lot of our work. So today what we have is a panel, so you guys don't have to listen to me the whole day. We're going to highlight different land operations in our watershed and how they work together for a community approach to conservation, so we reduce soil loss, reduce flooding, and then try to increase our infiltration. So I'll introduce the panel quick, but we'll have little kind of introductions before each of their parts. So we have panelists today of Jim Munsch, Mike Breckel, Bree Breckel, Matthew Canter, and James Hundt. So first up is Jim. Kind of got to talk into these. We're being recorded, so that's
Oh,
why.
is this? Can you hear me? I'm sure. Maggie, will you run the
Yep.
thing here? So at the very first year, we're going to step way back. Anything that happens bad in the land or anything that happens good in the land has to do with the land, how it looks, the slopes, the soils, and the people that live on it. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a 35,000-foot view of the Coon Creek watershed, and then with some history, a little bit of history, one slide of history, some of our problems, and some unique features of the watershed that may make our problems and solutions different than yours, and how we have planned to approach these. So a little bit of history is that the top picture is taken in 1933 during the Depression. It is the result of about 75 years of European settlement and farming on the very sloping, fragile soil area that is the Coon Creek watershed. In history, this was a oak savanna. You don't see much oak savanna in that picture on top. The trees were cut down to make structures out of and to clear land for farming that was typical of Europe at that time. So by the time 1933 came along, it was rough, really rough. In 1933, if you recall, it's that old, I'm apparently that old, we had repression in the United States. The government poured money into worthy causes. One of the worthy causes that they saw was the whole driftless area, sitting right next to the Mississippi River on both sides of the river, because of what you see in the top picture. And so the Soil Conservation Service had its very first project in Coon Valley. And we celebrated the 90th anniversary of that just this year. There is a plaque on Highway 14. If you're ever interested, you can stop and read all about it. What resulted was the bottom picture. About 50% of the farms in the watershed embraced conservation, and one of the practices that saved our rear ends was strip crops. And that picture of a farm sits there today just like that. So it is sustained a number of generations of the same thing. Next slide. But these pictures are current. And these pictures represent 2 of the resource problems we have. All of you are struggling to get farmers to embrace no-till farming practices. Anything but no-till on our land will not pass muster in a SNAP Plus program, in a nutrient management plan. And so no-till was a savior for the farming in our area. As small farms, small dairy farms left, that land got put into no-till. But no-till on our slopes and on our farm, I'll talk about our farm in a minute here, it was farmed when I bought it. It was 20% sloped land was still farmed. And so strips held a little bit. No-till on that kind of land, I'm sorry, in RCS, it does not meet T. It's not because of the basic technology, which has come a long way in that time, but it is how it's used. Picture that you see that there is a neighbor, and I can say that because nobody knows who my neighbor is, who for some reason, and a lot of them do this, well, I know the reasons, planted up and down the hill next to a waterway. So we have horrible gullying. At headlands, we have horrible gullying. And so that is one of our resource problems. Second resource problem is something that got all the way into the New York Times and the national news, and that is flooding. The picture on your left is Coon Valley in 2018, and the picture on the right is Coon Valley in 2018. That pool ended up on my farm, and I didn't charge the guy for the room and board. One of the drivers of this is that in times past, NRCS Soil Conservation Service had put in 13 dams on the upper reaches of the Coon Creek. 3 of those dams broke in this rain event. The rain event was a 100-year rain event. We'd had a 50-year rain event 3 or 4 years before that. So as the climate has changed, this has become a huge resource problem for us in the Coon Creek watershed. And then finally, I don't have a picture of this. We have another problem. Oak savanna has grass underneath the oak trees. Grass holds soil. When you let the woods grow and shade out the grass, and if you don't hold the water in the tilled land on the ridges, that water makes horrible ravines and washouts under the canopy of the forest. So that's the third resource concern we have. So, next slide. The other problem with our watershed from the farming standpoint, it was just great for small farms because it's very tortuous land. The hillsides on this farm, or the farms in our area, are billy goat country. They're almost straight up and down. Therefore, the crop fields are small and do not lend themselves to some of the big equipment that some of the custom operators want to use. That's the reason we have these ruts sort of up and down. So that's one of our problems. If you look at the whole watershed, it's 90,000 acres. Only 19% of it is cropland. And then we have some residual grasslands. A lot of it, 50% of it is forest. So it is a very complex environmental situation, which brings complexity to the farming and complexity to the economic and social background that farming brings. So as dairy farmers left, and when the generations behind them got rid of the land, they sold it to a very diverse group of landowners, many of which, and it's been mentioned before, were not farmers. And so the easy way for them to make some income on that land is to rent it out to people with no-till drills, no-till planters, and large equipment. They'll come in and run it and really don't care too much about what they're doing. One of our challenges is teaching landowners to be a little more selective about who they have farm their land. The other, and we have huge slice of different social groups that are operating in our watershed. Some are still farmers, some are landlords not farmers. We have Mennonites, we have Amish, and it is hard for us as a watershed to appeal to all of the groups that can make land use decisions. That is one of our challenges. We cannot, even though I am a grazer and believe strongly in keeping the land covered up and talk about my farm, you can't convince everybody to be a grazer. And you can't certainly teach everybody to be a direct marketer. So we have to come up with a lot of solutions to make, as our tagline is, running water walk. We have to slow the water from coming off of our ridges down these precipitous hillsides into the Coon Creek. So on our farm, I moved into the area in '76. What you see in front of you is now pasture, but that was all strip crop. We strip crop for a few years right down into 15-degree slope area. You can see it in this picture. We are on the ridge. Coon Valley is 1 mile away from us. We're at 1,200 feet above sea level. Coon Valley is 700 feet above sea level. That drops in less than a mile. So it's very precipitous. We back up. Just let me see the pictures. Come on.
Was moving you along.
I know you're moving me. Anyway, I'm not looking at you. That's the reason I'm talking. Anyway, we moved on to this land. We did a little of this strip cropping. I had a job someplace else, so I wasn't, going to live and die with what we did on the land. I'm an ag engineer from Purdue. I grew up on a hog farm in Indiana, and I know what erosion looks like. And it just killed me to see what was going on in this farm. So I decided I better learn something about cattle, because that was a way to cover the land up. 2 objectives: stop erosion and make money. Those were the 2 objectives. And so for the first 10, 15 years, I explored all the ways that you can lose money raising cattle. and then we, without having to direct market, which I detest, we hooked up with a big vegetable CSA and did all their cattle for them. And that was very satisfying. And then that fell apart, and we joined the Wisconsin Grass-Fed Beef Co-op. That has been very pleasant from an economic standpoint. And anybody in the cattle business, the beef cattle business, last year was a smiling year. Cattle prices were very, very high. That was an anomaly, but the Grass-Fed Beef Co-op has basically fulfilled that second requirement. Now you can change this. As far as the first requirement is concerned, that is to save soil, we ran our soils through a program called Grayscape, sponsored by Grassland 2.0 at the university, for which I do some consulting. And we looked at what the soil loss, P loss, would be if we had other forms of cultivation on our land. So on the very right-hand side is soil loss, and then at the bottom, P loss, phosphorus loss, with managed grazing.